You said it, buddy. Hey everyone, I wanted to take you on a little tour of how we created the Get in the Boat VFX. We went to this really great park in Monroe, Michigan called Munson Park, where there's this wonderful playground and a ship and stuff, but we really wanted to get from this raw footage to something that looked a lot more dramatic and fun. And another name for this behind the scenes could really be the power of stock footage. So obviously I had my original footage and I did a little bit of color correction. And the next most difficult involved part was taking all of the foreground element and rotoing it. Now I used the 3D camera tracker, so I actually had nice 3D layers that I could pin right to spots on all of the footage. So as you can see, I had to get kind of right in there and draw masks on these little planes that essentially moved with the camera, but you can see down there they needed a few keys to kind of keep them on point throughout. And I had to get really detailed into these little foreground elements like the steering wheel and the little hands as they came up and stuff like that. So that was the biggest waste of time on this, really. I also used kind of a procedural method to key out James, where I used a color range to select the orange in his jacket, use some simple chokers and stuff, and also the gray in his pants, and use that as inverted alpha mats for the original footage. Now, as I kind of mentioned for the masking that I did earlier to create the roto on this, I also have the benefit of the 3D camera being able to help me animate anything that I put into the scene. So as just a quick visual example, if I create a couple 3D layers way back and also lower in the layer stack, let's try to give you a quick visual representation. Check this out. So I'll play this, and all of these layers that I drop in to this 3D tracked scene automatically react like they're really in the space, which is great. So all I needed to do then is add in the scenery, and for that we turned to stock footage. This beautiful piece of stock footage I got from pond5.com was exactly what I was looking for. It was a nice high-res rough seas animation, so for anyone coming here to figure out how to animate a rough seas, I just bought it. Sorry. I have no doubt that if I really wanted to spend the time, this could actually be accomplishable using a combination of element and trapcode particular, messing around with some settings, doing some cool procedural textures, fractal noise, and mist and junk, but it all sounded like a lot of work. And sometimes with these things I need to kind of value whether or not it's worth my time to do everything from scratch when there's something perfectly good that might exist out there in the world. I did spruce this up a little bit with some lightning stock footage, which I kind of made look like it was reflecting in the ground a little bit, just for the few frames it exists. And now that becomes my background, and when I put my rotoed foreground element over it, you can see this is already starting to come together. The way I put it in there, as you'll recall, is as a 3D layer, so it responds to my camera movements. And I kind of flipped the footage and made this little fake panorama, so as the camera comes sweeping around, it fills the full frame behind this boat. Now, the thing that really makes this whole scene work are the layered elements. We have vignettes and foreground mist and rain, and all of these things combine to create this stormy feel. So again, lots of cool stock footage. This is some cool falling dust and steam, which looked a lot like a blizzard kind of rain to me, or hurricane rain to me. Video Copilot's Action Essentials has this lens splash with great water that comes up and splashes the lens. Even a rain card that I still had around from the Singing in the Rain video is thrown in there. I also wanted to create this cool interactive splash that made it look like the boat was filling up with water, and to create that I took a handful of small elements, some water blasts from Action Essentials 2, layered them in as 3D layers, along with a couple other pieces of footage. Here's a high-res dust cloud that looked a little bit like a wave to me. So I took that, recolored it, and kind of tried to make it look like water spilling over the side. Added an adjustment layer in 3D space to kind of blur out the bottom of the boat. Added in some footage of some swirling water that I used from my Jaws video a whole lot. And after I played with and timed that out, I'll solo these elements so you can kind of see. I was layering in those splashes from Action Essentials 2 and this water layer also from pond5.com. And when those started to come together, I was able to create this little water splash inside the boat that looked like the water sloshed up, bounced against this column. Then I was able to add back in the James that I had rotoed earlier. He's kind of sitting right in it, and I could create a mask that made it look like his legs are disappearing down into that water. When you step back and just look at all the 3D layers from this that are reacting to the camera, it's really interesting to check out how these kind of composite together. You can see those ones in the center are the water elements that end up in the middle of the boat, and everything else around it is the far background. This dark square kind of layer is actually a 3D vignette. I love to use this trick where you're able to do a really broad mask that darkens the edges, but also it reacts to the camera a little bit as the camera's moving around, like you can see there. So really, once all of these elements come together, I still had to iterate a bunch. At first I was going to use the column as the sole transition point from one to the other. This is an early draft where you can see just some of the primary motion coming in. By this final version, I realized I really wanted to have this rainstorm starting a little bit earlier, so you had more of a gentle transition into this full-out sea environment, which is pretty fun. So all in all, I was able to do all of the VFX for this video in one 6-hour day, which is really great. The roto wing took up probably 3 or 4 hours of that, and the putting in of the stock elements didn't take much time at all. The 3D camera was already tracked, so layering in the effects on top of stuff was very easy, and I knew it was going to stay married to the camera movement from the original footage. So I'm really happy with the way this one came together. I know this isn't a full making of exactly, but the main takeaways are use the 3D camera tracker when you can. It really helps you solve a lot of problems and can give you a lot of interactive elements. Purchase stock footage from anywhere you can find it. Pond5.com is great. A lot of this stuff is really affordable. And as I've said in a couple other videos, always try to layer up your effects as best you can so you've got stuff going on in the background, midground, and foreground, and it'll always give you a more complete visual effects look. That's all I got for now. Thank you guys for watching, and be sure to check out all the other videos on Action Movie Dad and Action Movie Kid for that matter. And as always, I invite you to subscribe to both channels. It really helps us out. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.